prepare differently and adjust. That some of those things, even if you don't talk about them, they happen.
Hey, Coach. Dyson's gotten a lot of respect this season for the defense and the disruption. But I think an unappreciated part of his game is how little he fouls and how he's rarely ever, if at all, in foul trouble. He's always composed, always remains disciplined. Could you speak a little bit to how he remains disciplined against the toughest matchups in the NBA on a night-to-night basis?
Yeah, I think it goes to his anticipation, and he doesn't put himself in positions where he's, making high-risk plays. I think he does a great job, frankly, of showing his hands. He's not swiping and putting himself in positions you mentioned where it looks like he's fouling. He's very disciplined as far as his body position.
Piggybacking on Dyson, Rick Carlisle last game told me that the Hall of Fame has taken note of people who play defense. Do you think that Dyson is changing the criteria for what it takes to be Defensive Player of the Year, maybe making it cool again to play defense?
Well, it depends who you ask. I don't know if the defense is ever going to fashion. There's a lot of cool guys out there who play defense. Bill Russell was pretty cool. So, but I understand what you're saying. I think for a perimeter player, it's more difficult analytically to gauge their impact. You have something like steals, the same way you do block shots. The deterrence at the rim is something that's quantifiable. I think it's easier to see, a big rim protector, impacting field goal percentage. A lot of what Dyson and perimeter players are able to do defensively, they're disruptive in ways that have, more indirect impact on possession throughout the possession, whether it's making it harder for someone to get a ball or spacing changes. Same situation, teams get up against the shot clock. But a lot of those things are much more difficult, to capture objectively, and I think that's one of the reasons that it's easier to notice, rim protection and big, and that's not to diminish. I had Rudy Gobert, and he's impactful, and he was defensive, but it's a different way to impact the defense. When you have someone like Dyson, it mitigates on some level if you don't have the protection, because he's able to keep people out of situations where they can attack the rim. So I would agree with Rick, and it's something, and I would agree with you too, as far as, I don't know, I'd like for it to still be cool. I think most coaches you ask would say it's pretty cool, but we don't. Go back to the box score, block shots and steals. You can't capture those things. And you see defensive rating, you see on and off numbers. Those things are a little harder to appreciate and value.
Points in the paint were obviously big on Thursday. You're third in that category this season compared to 15th last year. Was that an off-season objective or mandate to get more points in the paint, and how do you view that angle for tonight's game?
I think there's been a focus on getting into the paint. Whether that translates into actually points in the paint, or oftentimes there's a big emphasis for us on getting in there and having our eyes out. When teams take away the three, we like to talk about the rim revealing itself, but sometimes you get in there and you take tough contested twos, and the times you're in the paint may not always result in the productivity you want. So that's something we try to focus on. Even when you get in the paint, you're making a high percentage read. But I think the biggest thing for us is just wanting to put pressure on the rim.
Good. All right.
Thank you.